Before the video begins, I just wanted to say that everything I say in this video is purely subjective. It's what I believe is the correct answer. It may not be the perfect answer, but based on my experience, I believe it to be correct and right. So enjoy the video. Far too often, I speak to underclassmen and kids just entering college, and they have no idea what to do for their resume. They have no idea how to make it what it should be in order to get a job in their field. They really don't know what they're doing. Even college seniors at times. So what this is going to be is a guide to show those people what they should be doing, when they should be doing it, and how they should be doing it. This is really the how-to on how to make your resume what you want it to be. So I will show you a brief table of contents here in case you want to skip to a specific section. Maybe there's something you want to see really quick. That's totally fine. Here it is. Now you can pick and choose. Obviously, I'd rather have you watch the whole thing, but if you want to go that route, that's fine. Welcome to my guide. So why am I qualified to be giving you this information? Well, I'm coming up in the end of my college career here at Grand Valley State, and I'd like to think that I've done some pretty cool, unique things that many students have not. I'm joining VMware as a end user computing sales specialist in a few months here in Austin, Texas. So I've got my full-time job lined up. I interned twice for Cisco Systems, winning every single sales competition I participated in, beating out kids from schools like Columbia, University of Pennsylvania, Stanford. Did really well while I was there. So I definitely have some great awards on my resume as well as maintaining a high GPA and also leading a student organization, which I founded myself. And I've taken kids, with university money to Manhattan, to Las Vegas, and raised thousands of dollars from Student Senate. And I've also sat on both of the appropriation boards that award funding for student organizations, which awards over 1.2 million annually. So I've done a lot of really cool things while I've been in university. I'm nearing the end of my career here, and I want to pass on some information that I've learned so that you might also be in a similar situation when you finish school. So what I really want to do here is frame the problem. And the problem really is at a time like this, people talk about the unemployment rate and the unemployment rate. Oh, it's so low and everything's so amazing. What people really don't talk about is the underemployment rate. And that's as high as 40%. And what I mean by underemployment is people who may have college degrees, may have advanced degrees. You might have a master's degree, might have a bachelor's degree, but you work in a field that does not require that degree. So that would make you underemployed. And if you think about that number, 40% of people are underemployed, which means that they have the degree, but they weren't able to get into the field that they, majored in, or they just chose not to. Either way, that's a huge number, and you got to figure that a lot of those people wanted to be in that certain field and weren't able to make it. So that's why this is important, because it's important to frame your resume to make it the best it can be when you graduate, so you're not underemployed, so you can go out there and get that job in the field that you want, so you can land that high-paying job that you want so much and that you went to school for, frankly, and paid all those thousands of dollars for. So that's the problem. That's really framing, why I want to create this, why, that where that problem is. So one of the first things you should be doing is goal setting. Should plan out, where do you want to be right after graduation? Where do you want to be 4 or 5 years down the line? Where do you want your career to end up? What are you looking at in terms of where you want it to go? And some of those things might sound really daunting, and that's okay. But it's important that you at least have an idea of where you want to go. It doesn't have to be, I need to be X person by X date, and if I don't get there, my life's over. That's not what this is. This is really a, pick a career path, pick an area, just narrow down where you want to go. Because the problem is when you actually go to figure out, okay, I want to do this extracurricular because this is what I want to put it on my resume, and then this is how this is going to, look to my future employer. At least you can figure out, okay, I want to be in financials. I should join an investment club. I should be an officer in the investment club, and then maybe I can make that into an internship. So at least you have some kind of direction, right? Because if you don't know where you want to go, if you don't know who you want to be, how are you going to know what to actually shoot for? You don't want a bunch of random things on your resume, because what's going to happen is it's not going to look like a story. You're not going to be able to sell that. So you really want to set goals and figure out, I want to be in sales, and by X date, I want to be a sales manager. By X date, I want to be a sales manager in this industry. Maybe it's technology, whatever it may be. But it's important to say, this is where I want to be at this rough time estimate. The next thing you should be focused on is work experience. And whether it's an internship or some other name, it doesn't really matter the title, as long as it's relevant experience in the field that you want to work in the future. So we talked about goals earlier. You want to look at those goals and say, okay, if I want to be in the financial industry, maybe I should get an internship on in this financial firm. If I want to work with investments, I should get an internship that deals with investments. It should make logical sense, and you should be able to easily look at that internship and talk to someone and tell them how that would actually fit into your future career, how that experience can really help you. That's really important. And part of the reason I mention this too is many, many, many college students look way too late for internships. They assume, oh, I don't have to look at an internship until I'm a junior or a senior, because that's just for after graduation. This is not true at all. I mean, there's plenty of people in college who do internships after their freshman year, after their sophomore year, especially after their junior year. Um, it helps a ton. You can even find externships where high school students are doing internships, and that's some really good experience that you can get really early. What you should know is people are getting more work experience if you're not. That's really the important thing. And many kids also look way too late in the year. So I'll find, I'll talk to people who are looking in February, they're looking in March for an internship for the upcoming summer, and that's far too late. Really, you should be looking around July, August, and talking to recruiters about the next summer. So, if I'm interning, let's say it's the summer of 2020, and I want to look to intern in 2021 for that summer, I should be looking in 2020, July, August, talking to recruiters, reaching out, saying, hey, what about this program? What do you guys do here? How can I learn about more about this? Really, you should be, pinging recruiters on LinkedIn, on looking at jobs on Glassdoor, whatever it may be. That process needs to start around August. And then you're looking to actually apply to those internships around September in that fall timeframe. What you should know is in November and December, a lot of major companies have made a lot of their selections, and a lot of opportunities will be gone. So really that process starts almost a year. Actually, it does start a year before you actually get to that internship. So that's important to know. The other thing too is, if you're doing your first internship and you have little experience, you should be applying to dozens and dozens and dozens of companies. The response rate is astronomically low, especially if you have very little experience. You should be looking to reach out to, I don't know, maybe even, honestly, as many as it takes. A lot of people I'll talk to, will talk to maybe 5 or 6 companies. I'm like, oh, I pumped out, 6 job applications yesterday, and I'm feeling good about it, and I think someone will get back to me. But if they have no other experience, they probably will not hear back. So it's important to really, it is a numbers game. It's to reach out to as many employers as possible, especially if you're just starting out. Obviously, you do want to try to get experience in whatever field that you want to work in, but if it comes down to it, experience is great. So let's say, you want to be in, I keep coming back to this investments example, but if you want to be in investments, you should first look to find something within that field, so within investments. But if you're not having any luck there, maybe you want to look in, some kind of banking, whatever kind of banking. It's financial, so you can see how it relates there. If you can't find anything there, maybe you want to branch out to business as a whole, and you want to find something business related, because obviously it makes no sense to work in a lab, as some kind of medical technician if you want to be in banking. Just try to make it fit, but experience is experience in the end. So that's a really important aspect to look at, and it's to start looking at internships early and looking to get as much relevant experience as possible. So the next piece I want to focus on is extracurriculars and clubs. And really the important thing here is finding clubs that are high impact but low commitment. So you want to find clubs where you're not spending a ton of time, maybe not more than an hour a week. It really depends on your schedule. But ultimately, you're a busy person. You've got a lot of things going on. You've got other clubs to tend to. You've got school. You're working out. You've got spend time with friends. You got all these things happening. So you want to find things that aren't going to stress you out a ton. You don't want to burn out, right? You probably have a lot of school left. You want to find things that look great on paper, but don't take a lot of time commitment and that you're able to easily cancel on. Those are the greatest things to have. So some things I would call out is maybe an officer in a small to medium-sized club where you can drive a lot of initiatives. You can, let's say, you become the marketing officer of your cybersecurity club. You can say, hey, I drew in 20 additional members since I took over the position, and this is how I did it. I reached out to these people. I talked to these professors. I did this, and that's really cool because you can write that on your resume. Looks great on paper. Somebody can look at it and be like, wow, I really saw his impact that he had on that organization. And maybe you only have to meet for that club once a week. Maybe you're talking to professors about the organization in the classes you're already in. So it's not a huge extra time commitment, but it looks great on paper. And let me just show you, I guess, how that would look. And you can see it on my resume here. This is kind of some of the activities that I would point out is right here. So the ideal is having a few of these high impact, low commitment activities, like you see here, plus some kind of activity that's ultra high impact, medium commitment. And really what I like with this really anchors your resume. It anchors that career or that extracurricular spot for you. You can say, hey, look, I did all these cool things. You can briefly touch on those, clubs where they are, high impact, low commitment. But then you have that one thing that stands out that you can really dive into and say, look at all these neat things that I did with this. I'm really driving this. This is all me, and it's super cool and it's unique. Not a lot of students have this. So, for example, with me, that would be like starting my own student organization. And I can say all these things. Look, I founded this organization from scratch. I created this, which brought in 15 members. I've run the marketing plan. I've presented to, Student Senate on this and drawn in X amount of money for these trips. I've brought in these companies to talk to my organization. We've visited these companies. And showing that you're driving all of that is, for me, it's like the president, the founder of that organization really anchors that club's portion of my resume and shows how I am a leader in that category. The reason why I harp on the time commitment piece is because there's so many things going on, like I mentioned. You've got so many things happening. You're so stressed out. You really don't want to think it's the end of the world if you miss some event or some meeting. If you think about something like running your own student organization, which looks great on paper, obviously, like I mentioned before, you can easily pass it off to some other officer to run the meeting, or you can cancel the meeting outright. There's plenty of avenues you can take where if you really need to miss a meeting, you're able to, and it's not the end of the world. It shouldn't stress you out to no end. So that's a really great example of that. For me, a few big time commitment activities that I would caution against, and I know people feel very strongly about these activities, and I know I might receive a bit of flack for this, but I would say club sports, big one, especially if you're not a captain, if you're not really leading anything with that. Big time commitment, you might have to practice every day, every other day, which is, that's probably 3 or 4 hours a week minimum. Then if you have team workouts or that sort of thing, extra time plus games, you're traveling on the weekend, that's a lot of time that you could be sinking into resume activities. And that's only for one little blip. I'm a member of X team. That's 8-9 hours a week of work where you could just say a member of X club, and that would be 30 minutes a week. Or you could even be, I'm an officer of this club, which would be even better, and that would be maybe an hour a week. You get the picture, you understand what I'm saying. Another thing, fraternities, sororities. I know they're big. I know they're huge. I know they're very fun. I'm not saying you shouldn't do them. I'm just saying that they take a big time commitment where if you feel like, oh, I'm in this fraternity, I'm in the sorority, and I really don't have time for any of these things you're talking about, Christian. I can't join a club and be a leader because I have to do these things for my fraternity. I just think it's a big time suck, and it might be hard for you to do other things. That said, I know I've heard of people who are presidents in their fraternity. They do certain things for it, so that could look really good. Obviously, there's ways you can make a fraternity, sorority, Greek life look great on your resume. There are ways. I'm just saying it may not be optimal. Same with club sports. I think the same thing. Those are just a couple examples of some things that might be big time sucks, may not be that great of an impact for time commitment. And that's really what I'm talking about is just efficiency here. The next portion I want to talk about is awards and recognition. And really, what this section does is exactly what it sounds like. Shows why you are an absolute rock star, right? Why are you better than everybody else that did this thing? If let's say you're an intern at this company, well, that's really cool and all, but why are you better than all the other interns that intern with you? Why should I hire you over, Tommy, who also interned there? It's really showing why you're the best, why you're awesome, why this company that you're interviewing with should pick you, right? And maybe that's showing that you won a competition. Maybe that's showing that were recognized by your manager for driving $200,000 of revenue, or you increased efficiency by 33% or whatever it may be, and you were recognized for some award at that company. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't even have to be a specific award, but just show why you're special, right? And try to make it quantifiable, right? People love to see, oh my God, this person, won this award, and this award means that they did this, right? It's not, don't just list an award like, oh my God, I'm the, trying to think of something random here. I won the most efficient worker in the green space area. It's like I would probably look at that on someone's resume and go, what does that really mean? You're the most efficient worker in the green space. What is the green space? What does it mean that you are the most efficient worker, right? So quantify that. The most efficient worker in the green space, and that's because I churned out 20 customer orders every hour, and I was the best worker in the specific area we call the green space. Just make it make sense and make it so somebody that reads it knows what you're talking about, right? And knows that that award, that recognition means that you're better than the other people you worked with, or you're stronger in some area, right? Just make yourself stand out in that way. The next thing I'd like to talk about is grades. So, and I know this is sort of people have really strong opinions on this. They think that, oh, grades don't matter at all, nobody cares. There's other people who say, oh my God, grades matter so much. You better get a 4.0 and you better be an awesome rock star, or else you're never going to get anywhere. And I'm just going to say, I think grades matter a lot more toward the beginning of your college career than at the end. If you think about it, at the beginning of your college career, if you don't have a lot of work experience, you don't have a lot of leadership activities, your grades are probably a big component of who you're appearing to be as a student, especially if you have no internship experience. If you're trying to get an internship, that employer might look at your grades, might look at somebody else's grades if you guys both don't have a lot, and that might be the deciding factor. That said, I think once you have work experience, that work experience is going to matter a lot more than your GPA. Um, Another thing to note as well, a lot of employers have cutoffs for internships and jobs. I've seen a 3.0 GPA minimum cutoff. I've seen a 3.2, seen a 3.3. I've also seen a 3.5, and I've seen a 3.7. So they have different cutoffs for where they want their students to be. People that they're going to hire in the organization where they say, this is our minimum. You have to do this well. All that said, I would probably say that you probably want to maintain above a 3.5 based on those minimum employer cutoffs. And in terms of recognition, I've heard from recruiters that if you don't have a 3.5, then don't list it on your resume, because if you're not above a 3.5, it's not impressive enough to be there. Now, I want to talk about is the resources sections. And this is really where I think you can draw a lot of great insight into not only the job that you want to do, the internships you want to do, but also salaries, reviews on companies, um, interview tips, you name it. There's a ton of great information on all these sites, and I'm going to name them all right now. I really think, obviously, Google, very basic tool. You can Google, find all kinds of things. But I also think LinkedIn, great source. Glassdoor, excellent source. And also searching your specific job or whatever you're looking for information on, and then typing Reddit afterwards, you'll find some kind of Reddit thread of someone talking about their experience in the company, which allows them to elaborate a lot more than I think on Glassdoor, and they're more candid than they are on LinkedIn. So it's cool to see the Reddit more informal format. And if you don't know LinkedIn, obviously you probably should. Professional careers page. Most everybody has one. I would be very shocked if you didn't. If you don't, you should definitely get on that right now. Glassdoor, great site for seeing, interview information, salaries. Like I mentioned at the beginning, a lot of useful information on there. You can see how much, the average person makes in X job at X company. Easier for public, big companies because there's a lot of information on them. But you can also find information on smaller companies as well, and what they actually think of the company. So you're able to do research on a company. If you're not sure about working at Walmart, you can see what people say about working at Walmart or whatever the company may be. Some companies have some abysmal Glassdoor reviews. Some have great reviews. Glassdoor also does a ranking of their best employers who scored the best on their reviews. So a lot of great information there. I think Reddit has, like I mentioned, a lot of great informal information. And then Google, obviously, you might find the random thread elsewhere on a different site or information on the company from their website. A lot of great information there. Thanks for watching. I know I covered a lot of concepts in this video. There's so much to talk about. I wish I could say more. I'm trying to keep it sort of digestible. That said, if you want to get in contact with me about any of these concepts or talk further, my contact info is displayed here. Feel free to reach out. Thanks a lot.